for me, music has been a passion since I was a little boy. And I've always tried to inspire my kids in terms of music and listening to music. When I think back to my audio kind of evolving, I have a moment that I remember in 1995 when I was an intern at the bank. And that was the days of iPods just coming up and digital music and MP3s. And there were these two older gentlemen that would always sit across from me, and they were just obsessed with music. And they would talk about all day their Wilson Watt Puppy 5s and their Rega Plana 3 turntable. And I'd ask them some questions, and I'm like, why are they listening to records? Why don't they have MP3s? Why are they spending all this money? I don't understand. And if I fast forward to 2000, was the first time I actually invested. And I purchased a pretty good digital theater with all active speakers and this really interesting processor from a manufacturer. And what got me excited about it wasn't so much the music at that time. It was the fact that it was driven by software, and you could do so much with the firmware, and I was a tweaker. It was more playing with the toys and never really listening to the music. It wasn't until I think 2002 where I think I had my first real audiophile experience. I remember that day vividly where I had just wandered into Definitive Audio in Bellevue, and I had walked back into the reference audio room.
Nice to see you.
And I remember that system vividly. It was a pair of Watt Puppy 7s in desert silver, like these Alexias. And I sat down in the chair, and I can feel the emotion of the music being transferred to me. You start to feel some goosebumps.
Mm-hmm. It's the first few times, especially, that you have that experience where you really get the emotional connection to the music. I still remember late 80s having that experience for the first time, and it sticks with you forever.
Yeah. It was almost like a spiritual event for me. Now I understand how music can sound. And I think that inspired me to say, like, hey, one day I'd love to own something like this where I feel like I can really enjoy the music. My daughter was born in 2006, and her name was Sophia. The Sophia speaker has always been something that I've wanted. Kind of like, because I love my daughter and I love audio, it'd be kind of fun to have a speaker named the same as my daughter.
I remember when Mohammed was talking to me about purchasing the Sophias the first time around. I have to be honest, I was really reluctant. Wasn't really into this whole sound thing, didn't get it.
I think there's two types of listening. I think they're both very important and important for me. One kind of listening for me is, it's been a long day, and you put your favorite record on, forgetting about the crazy day. And for me, that's really important. And I find for me, music is a huge de-stressor and kind of puts things into perspective. And I have my set of favorite albums for things like that. Part of it, what happened with the home we live in today, is you have limited space. So for me, I decided to put my audio system and my speakers in the living room behind me where the kids can actually play.
This is our living space. This is where we're at. The kids don't go to a playroom. Mohammed doesn't go to his man cave. We're all together as a family in our living space.
But what's interesting is that as those speakers came home and we started to play music on them every single day, the dynamic in the house changed. All of a sudden, I would come home from work and the stereo would be on. People would be listening to music. My wife would be listening to music. The kids would be listening to music.
In terms of what my children love for music, you think it'd be very much kid-related music, but they have an affinity to Fleetwood Mac and Jimi Hendrix and Dave Brubeck.
Mi piaci, mi piaci.
For the longest time, people would come in and would notice the speakers, and Sophia would take them by the hand and walk them over to them and say, look behind here, what does it say? To point out that it was her name. To the point that it would bother my son, which is like, what about me? I want Amir speakers. So I think as I went and worked and did this upgrade to the Alexias, it was really important for me to have both their namesakes on each of them. So it's kind of fun that there was a Sophia name on one of the speakers and Amir on the other.
First of all, when Mohammed brought up the Sophias, that was a big commitment for me. And I remember telling him, it can't get better than this. It cannot get better than this. The sound quality cannot get better. So you need to take your thoughts of getting a better speaker out of your mind, because really, how can you want better?
I think what piqued my interest in moving up to the Alexia is the fact that earlier in the year I had the opportunity to listen to the XLFs.
And I said, I don't know.
And I heard that it was about the same footprint as a Sasha, but had the DNA of an XLF.
I thought he was ridiculous because he'd never even heard them.
We could, tune it a little bit more, and it was more time coherent.
And I'm thinking, he's gone crazy, he's gone mad.
And it had that new tweeter that I heard that day at the XLF.
And so when he came to me and said, we've got the Alexias, and this is what everybody's saying, and I want them. And to see Muhammad's passion about it, I couldn't say no. I couldn't say no to him. And I got home last night and I heard them for the first time set up. And it didn't take more than 2 or 3 beats for me to recognize not just a gradual delta of change in sound quality, but it's truly amazing. And my 6-year-old daughter could tell the difference. And she said, Mommy, the speakers, the music sounds more real.
E quando ti guardo lo sai cosa voglio da te. Ah, e quando mi guardi lo so cosa tu vuoi da me.